What's going on, guys? It's Thomas here, coming at y'all with kind of like my first football talk video. For those who don't know, I am a huge Patriots fan. Have been ever since I was a little kid. Um, so I thought that since I just graduated, I could take my business degree and kind of apply it to how the Patriots have kind of gone about their offseason. And so, yeah, with that being said, do take all that I say with a grain of salt, as I am a huge Patriots fan and bias is clearly a thing in this situation, but I did try to keep it as bias free as possible up until the end, as you're going to see. But with all that being said, here's entrepreneurship and business development approach to the New England Patriots offseason. First being up with the Patriots, they really did have to go through a whole SWOT analysis for what they want to accomplish with their football team. Now, obviously, going 4-13 is a very rough look for any franchise, but to really look towards the future, they had to do a SWOT analysis. And for those who don't know what SWOT analysis is, SWOT stands for your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and your threats. And some of the strengths that the Patriots, in my mind, have looked at is that they had the most cap room in the NFL by far. They had the 4th overall pick as they were 4-13. They're a relatively big market team being in Foxborough and that New England and Boston area. And they do have the second easiest strength of schedule this upcoming season. So, that being their strengths, also come with a lot of their weaknesses, in which I just kind of outlined their offensive line. Drake May was running for his life pretty much all of last year. They had no wide receiver whatsoever. I mean, unless you want to say Kendrick Bourne or Pop Douglas is your best receiver. I mean, there's some weeks where Hunter Henry was their best receiver, and that's a tough look. And overall, just head coaching. Gerard Mayo having no experience besides being the linebackers coach for us. I just think he was thrown into fire, and he just quite honestly just was not ready for that leap and was not going to be the coach everyone expected him to be. But after those weaknesses, you do have a lot of opportunities, with Drake May showing a lot of signs. He did have a little bit of some turnover problems and concussions that were caused as a result of that offensive line being so bad. But I think a lot of people are willing to look past that. And the opportunity of getting Mike Vrabel as your head coach after firing Gerard Mayo. And your threats are obviously, the Bills pretty much winning the division for the last 5 years in a row. And, of course, you going 4-13, which is it's rough for any team to go into the new year and trying to rebuild. But with all that being said, the Patriots had the opportunity to go into the offseason, and they did get Mike Vrabel. Now, Mike Vrabel is a notorious head coach. He's a very physical head coach. He's not, as you can tell, he's not very shy about getting what's most out of his players, as he will literally go toe-to-toe with players like Derrick Henry to get the most out of them. So with that being said, let's look at these numbers for a second. Without telling you who this is, I want you to look at the touchdowns, the interceptions, and pretty much just look at the records. I mean, first glance you would think, oh wait, this is like Tom Brady, but then you start saying like, oh wait, 2020, 12-14. This isn't from, these are quarterback stats, but these aren't just Tom Brady stats. This is Josh McDaniels as an offensive coordinator, as you can see in the hiatus in some years, such as 2009 through 2011. But looking at these stats, I mean, 25-12, 50-9, 21-11, and that 21-11 was with Matt Castle. So it's one thing to have a good offensive coordinator, but it's another thing to have an offensive coordinator who is proven to be a winner in that franchise. If he is able to take a rookie Mac Jones and make the playoffs with that roster, then imagine what he can do with Drake May when he was under Gerard Mayo for a year, and he still looks really, really good. Now, here's a little say hello to the team, I guess, and I thought this picture was funny. So, yeah. So, in free agency, on the offensive side of the ball, the Patriots made a splash with all of those free cap that they had. signing Stephon Diggs, Morgan Moses, Mac Hollins, Josh Dobbs, and Garrett Bradbury. They got the wide receiver depth in Mac Hollins and Stephon Diggs. They shored up the offensive tackles for the offensive linemen. And they got one of the smartest quarterbacks in the NFL to help Drake May with his development, and Josh Dobbs, the pastronaut. Garrett Bradbury is also a proven leader and a good, solid center, replacing David Andrews, who was the heart and soul of his team for a while. And for the free agency additions on the defensive side of the ball, they probably made the biggest splash in free agency when they signed Milton Williams away from the Carolina Panthers, on which he was originally agreed to, but ended up paying him more money than the Panthers could. And then helping Christian Gonzalez on the cornerbacks is Carlton Davis. Patriots also got one of the highest rated linebackers, I believe 4th in terms of Pro Football Focus of all linebackers, Robert Spillane. And then obviously the Mike Rabel connection with Harold Landry. And I think a really underrated signing was Kevon Chaisson, who is a former first-round pick and had 5 sacks last year. He's a physical beast, and I think he can honestly, in the right system, he can really make a difference, and I think that he has a lot of untapped potential. Now, some of the key draft picks, I'm only going to highlight 4 of them, as the Patriots made like 11 selections, which I think was tied for the most in the draft. But some of those key picks were obviously Will Campbell, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, and Braden Swinson, in which I thought he could be the steal of the draft, as he had, I believe, like 8 sacks last year at LSU, and I was surprised to see him fall around 5. But he obviously has a connection with Will Campbell, and I feel like that's going to be iron sharpening iron. And I'm going to get into more detail of why I like these picks the way I do. Now, a good quote that I like to use is that the key to success is in the past, as history does tend to repeat itself all too often, it seems like. So, with that being said, I think the Patriots this offseason really looked at their division as like, okay, who is the best quarterback to emulate? Then go in your own division and look at the reigning MVP in Josh Allen. Now, you'll notice that Josh Allen and Drake May have a lot of similarities. I mean, Josh Allen is a 6'5", 237-pound quarterback who ran a 4.75 40 back in his day. And Drake May is a 6'4", 225 quarterback who ran a 4.6 flat 40. Now, does this automatically mean that Drake May is Josh Allen? Not one bit. No. But it does mean that you can put the players and personnel around him to kind of make him into a Josh Allen-like player. And you kind of have to start with that with the offensive line and just don't kill the man. So when you're bringing in 3 new guys to offensive line, obviously it's going to take some time for them to, get used to the new offense and things like that. But this is a huge step in getting Drake May into his development, just so he's not getting sacked every other play. Now, one player that they signed, what better way to get Josh Allen or develop Drake May to be Josh Allen than bring one of his best receivers in Mac Hollins? Yeah, believe it or not, Mac Hollins led the Bills last year in receiving touchdowns. He had 5 receiving touchdowns last year for him. That was good enough to be their leading receiver in touchdowns. Now, while he wasn't their leading receiver, that was Khalil Shakir at like 800 yards. He had the most receiving touchdowns, which means that he was often one of the main guys looked at in the red zone. Oh, and they also, signed a guy named Stephon Diggs. Now, yeah, pretty good signing. Now, does this mean that with the signing of Mac Hollins and Stephon Diggs, this automatically makes Drake May Josh Allen? No. Not one bit. But you're kind of like trying to bring those guys who have been in that Josh Allen system and that Bills system and kind of surrounding them with Drake May to see what Josh Allen did. Now, granted, Stephon Diggs is not Stephon Diggs he was when he was on the Bills a couple years ago, as he is coming off an ACL injury. But I really do think these are the right steps, as, Josh Allen is reigning MVP, and Drake May has to be thinking to himself, Josh Allen's pretty good, and Josh Allen's a pretty good bar to set. Now, something else that I noticed about this offseason is that the Patriots, while, yes, they did go out and sign a lot of Josh Allen's former teammates, they kind of also drafted players that are like Josh Allen's star, like, co-stars. I mean, look at the measurables in this situation right here. Kyle Williams and Stephon Diggs, they're both 6 foot flat, within 5 pounds of each other, and their 40 times are nearly identical. This, I think, is the Patriots' way of just kind of grooming him into becoming that Stephon Diggs player, in which he can develop into a prime Stephon Diggs. Now, obviously, to say he's going to be Stephon Diggs is a long shot, but you kind of like to see the vision of what the Patriots are trying to do here. And they also kind of do the same thing with Trevion Henderson and James Cook. They're both around 5'10", 5'11". Trevion Henderson is a little bit heavier, but their 40 times are nearly identical, within 1/100th of a second. These are very similar players with very similar play styles, in which I might add, James Cook in his senior season won the championship with Georgia, and you can look at all these stats right here. While he wasn't as utilized in the run game, I want you to look at his receiving stats. His senior year, when they won the championship, he had 27 receptions for 284 yards receiving. Now, I want you guys to remember that. Something that is really cool and really odd that I didn't realize until I was studying to make this video, that Trevion Henderson, his senior year, when he won a championship, he also had 27 receiving yards for 284 yards. It doesn't get any more similar to that. They quite literally had the exact same amount of receptions for the same exact amount of yards. Have similar measurables, ran almost the same exact 40, both second-round picks. The Patriots, they're not even being discreet about this anymore. It's almost like they are trying to follow the Bills' exact formula and to make Drake May Josh Allen, in which Josh Allen had a lot worse of a rookie year. Now, looking at the roster as a whole, yes, they did improve their whole roster. They're copying the Bills' formula. They have the second easiest schedule. And Drake May, I think, is going to make a huge second-year leap with the combination of a vastly improved defense and a vastly improved offensive line and the players that are going to develop that could be stars one day. Now, look at the schedule here. This is my win-loss prediction as a Patriots fan, so this is where the bias mainly comes in. Right now, I have the Patriots winning against the Raiders, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Saints, Titans, Browns, Jets. We always split with the Bills, and Jets again, and Dolphins. So that's about 10-7 right there. These are ones I'm fairly confident in. I could see us winning against the Falcons and possibly the Giants. But I don't want to say that we're going to be a 12-win team after we just went 4-13, as I think that'd be a little extreme, especially for a second-year quarterback and a lot of new personnel. But I do think this team does have a legit shot at challenging the Bills for first place in that AFC East spot. Now, will they win it? I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think they're that far behind, as crazy as that sounds. But just looking at the schedule, they do have the second easiest schedule in the NFL. That's why I have them winning against the Raiders. I mean, Geno Smith is their quarterback. Pittsburgh Steelers don't have a quarterback. Panthers are the Panthers. Saints don't have a quarterback. Vrabel's not going to lose to the Titans. We're not going to lose to the Browns, even though that defense is very intimidating. Jets don't concern me one bit. We always split the Bills, and I could just see us splitting with the Dolphins, especially late in the season if Tua is probably hurt. But with all that being said, this is kind of like my way of kind of putting in perspective how people, how I viewed it as someone with kind of like a business background with that SWOT analysis. Now, is this what they did? Who knows? I'm not part of the Patriots general managing staff. Nowhere near qualified to be, but this is just some of the things I found really interesting and pretty cool. So with a combination of new coaching staff, familiar faces, and just pretty much reshaping the whole roster, this team could be very, very good. A lot better than a lot of other people are giving them credit for. But anyways, guys, if you enjoyed this kind of videos, make sure to let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, do whatever you gotta do. And yeah, I had fun making this, and I can't wait to try and do more of these in the future, possibly.